I have to make a confession. I was making a science project for school, hard pressed on time, but despite that, I spent 3 hours trying to assemble an IKEA shelf all by myself without the manual. Why? Because I was too proud to ask for help. And that pride made me throw the manual with the packing. I told myself, how hard can it be? Well, 3 hours, 2 wrong shelves, and 1 cracked board later. I called my friend who had ordered the same shelf last week. He walked me through it in like 12 minutes. In the process, I learned something simple. Very simple, very powerful. Asking for help doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. But we don't see it that way, do we? Hey everyone, welcome back to Communicate 101, the podcast that helps you speak smarter, write better, and survive awkward conversations without breaking a sweat. We live in a world where independence is glorified. Be strong, figure it out, don't be a burden. Asking for help should feel easy, but it doesn't. So today we are unpacking why is it so hard? Why do we break into a sweat just thinking about it? And how can we rewire ourselves to do it better? Imagine you drowning at work in office. The deadline is like doing Macarena on your calendar. You know you need the help, but you hesitate. Why? Because your brain is playing tricks on you. You're scared to ask because you don't want to look clueless, you don't want to bother someone, or worst of all, you want to prove you can do it all by yourself. I'm not advocating that you start taking help even when you can do it yourself, but there's nothing wrong in asking for help. But why is asking for help so damn hard? Most of us say, I don't know, but I can't ask. I can give, but I can't ask. When we don't ask for help, we're actually saying, I'd rather struggle alone than appear vulnerable. Some of us will also be saying, I'd rather slow down the team than admit I'm stuck. It's bitter, but it's true. And that is not strength. That's ego wearing a superhero cape. But only these reasons? No. Hold that thought. It's not just ego or pride. You're biologically and socially conditioned to avoid asking. It's not your fault. You can't ask because it's pure biology, plus psychology, and a dash of cultural seasoning. Let me explain. So what happens in our body when we ask for help? When we consider asking for help, our brain triggers a threat response. Cortisol spikes in our body. It's the stress hormone which goes up. Why? Because we feel help is an uncertainty. It could also have a possible rejection and you're scared of feeling exposed. So that stress hormone goes up. That's a lot for the brain to chew on. The second thing which happens when we consider asking for help, remember, consider, the amygdala lights up. That's our fear center. It's scanning for danger and asking, what if they judge me? Will I look incompetent? Will they abandon me? Your brain literally reacts to social rejection the same way it reacts to physical pain. And the third thing which happens is that the dopamine stalls. Normally, dopamine gives us that nice little hit when we're feeling confident or we're feeling rewarded. But when we ask for help, especially if we've been conditioned to associate it with weakness, dopamine takes a backseat. There's no instant gratification, just fear. That's what happens internally, biologically in our body when we ask for help. Think about this. Great athletes have coaches. Top CEOs, they have advisors. Even the Prime Minister, the President have advisors. Even Iron Man had Jarvis. Does that make the Prime Ministers and the Presidents any less? Nobody wins alone. But when we do ask, we're inviting collaboration, we're opening doors to new ideas. And that way we're building trust because asking for help is an act of honesty. So instead of seeing asking as a last resort, what if we saw it as a leadership move, a smart move, a human move. I'm going to share not one, not two, but three very, very powerful science-backed strategies to make asking easier for all of us. The first strategy is backed by neuroscience. It's called Name It to Tame It. A few months ago, Priya was gearing up to ask her boss for something big. She was wanting a chance to lead a high visibility project. And she knew she had the experience, she knew she could do it, but every time she opened her mouth to ask, her throat dried up and her heart pounded like a drum solo. She told herself, maybe now is not the right time. What if I sound pushy? And what if my boss thinks I'm not ready? This is where the brain kicks in. The science in the brain tells you whenever you're overwhelmed by an emotion, fear, anxiety, shame, the amygdala, the brain's emotional alarm, it hijacks our thinking. It's like your inner caveman yelling, danger, don't move, even when all you're doing is just sending an email. But if you can name that emotion, you can tame that emotion. Before her next meeting, Priya tried something new. She paused, she took a breath, and she said to herself, I'm feeling nervous because I don't want to come across as arrogant. She named her nervousness. She named the fear that she had, that she didn't want to come across as arrogant. That one sentence did something very powerful. It switched on her prefrontal cortex, the logical, calm, grown-up part of the brain. And that dialed down the panic in her amygdala. Suddenly, her thoughts were clearer, her body was relaxed, and when she spoke, her words didn't sound pushy. They sounded grounded and they sounded confident, and she got the project. So the next time you want to ask for something, a raise, a support, or a boundary, try this first. Name the emotion you're feeling. I'm worried they'll think I'm being difficult. I feel anxious about sounding needy. I'm afraid of rejection. Name the emotion you're feeling. Say it to yourself. You don't need to say it out loud. Because the moment you name it, you're no longer wrestling with a ghost. You're facing something real, something manageable. And that is how logic steps in and pain takes a backseat. Now go ask. You've got this. While we move to strategy number 2. The second technique that I want to share with you today comes straight from the world of behavioral psychology. People tend to like you more after they help you. Strange, right? You were thinking that if you ask for help, it would make people feel burdened or annoyed. But actually, it makes them feel closer to you. This is called the Ben Franklin effect. Back in the 1700s, Ben Franklin had a very fierce political rival, someone who was publicly criticized him, and clearly he wasn't a fan. So instead of avoiding this man or confronting him head on, Franklin did something completely unexpected. He asked the man for a favor, not a big one, just to borrow a rare book from his private library. Now think about that. A powerful, proud man is asked for something only he has. Obviously, the man agrees. He lends the book. Franklin thanks him warmly. And then something very weird happens next. That same rival who once couldn't stand Franklin, he started treating him with warmth and respect. They ended up becoming friends. So what changed? When we help someone, especially someone we are unsure about, our brain has to make sense of our actions. It thinks, well, I helped this person. I must actually like him. So we rewrite the story in our minds, depending on how our behavior is. That's how psychologists explain it. So when you ask someone for help, you're not showcasing your weakness, you're not risking rejection, you're giving them a chance to invest in you, to take a small step that strengthens your connection. It's like how colleagues grow closer when somebody says, hey, can you just take a quick look at this deck before I present it? Or how friendships deepen when you say, I could really use your advice. We fear being a burden, but often asking is the bridge to bonding. So the next time you hesitate to ask for help, try flipping the thought. Instead of, what if they say no? Try by asking, I'm building trust. And just like Ben Franklin, you might end up turning a skeptic into an ally. The last strategy is my personal favorite, as always. And that is backed by communication science. When you say, can you help me with my project? That's overwhelming. But when you say, can you look at the intro of my pitch? It'll take just 5 minutes. That's clear, respectful, doable. So when you're asking, you need to be smart. You need to ask 2 things. Number 1, whatever you ask has to be very specific. Can you look at the intro of my pitch, not my whole pitch? And the second thing that you need to do is you need to tell that it's a very small ask. It'll take you just 5 minutes. Instead of that vague, can you help me, which triggers confusion and anxiety for both parties, a specific ask makes the other person more comfortable, safer, and the ask more actionable. Don't say, I need help with my project. Instead of that, say, can you give me 5 minutes to discuss the hook of my presentation? You're specifying 5 minutes. Hook, not the entire project, not the entire presentation. Because specificity makes it easier for the helper to say yes. And it's easier for you to ask without spiraling. Your fear center loves big dramatic thrusts. So don't go in for the huge ask. Don't let the amygdala win. Hack the amygdala. Start with the micro asks. Could you review this one slide? Can I get your take on this one sentence? Once your brain sees that nothing explodes, cortisol drops and your confidence goes up. It's like an exposure therapy for your ego. Harvard research says that we often overestimate how negatively people will judge us if we ask. Most people, on the contrary, don't think less of you. In fact, thoughtful questions make you seem more competent, not less. So instead of thinking they'll think I'm weak, reframe it and tell yourself, I'm showing clarity and a growth mindset. That's why I'm asking. While you must master these strategies, I'm unpacking, offering help in the next segment, because it's not important just to ask for help. You need to know how to offer help as well. When we get comfortable asking for help, we also get better at offering it. And so offer help generously, because it really does good to your body. Biologically, mentally, every which way. When we do receive help, what happens in our body? Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, it gets released. It builds trust, connection. It even lowers the stress. Imagine walking stress-free in today's world. It's a superpower, right? After oxytocin, dopamine, the feel-good chemical, it shows up when the help that we give turns into a success or a relief. Because we remember what it feels like to be stuck, to be overwhelmed, to want someone to say, hey, I've got you, let's figure this out together. So asking for help starts with a storm but ends with a rainbow. When was the last time you asked for help? Hey, not hey Siri or not Google it. Help, I mean real, human, face-to-face, vulnerable help. Was it tough? Until now? But not anymore. Save this episode. Whenever you want to ask for help, just replay it. You'll be prepared, believe you me, in no time. The next time you're stuck, overwhelmed, or just out of ideas, don't power it through it in silence. Raise your hand, send that message, make that call. Because asking for help isn't giving up, isn't weak. It's an act of strength. It's the beginning of connection. It's human. That's it for today on your favorite show, Communicate 101 Speaking Writing Tips. If you found this helpful and you believe somebody could be helped with this episode, share it with him. Give him a little nudge. And if you're thinking through a tricky conversation, DM me. I've got your back. Until next time, be brave, speak up, and don't be afraid to say, "Can you help me?" Thank you for listening to this episode of Communicate 101 Speaking Writing Tips with Sarika Singh. If you want to be notified of upcoming episodes, be sure to hit the subscribe button and follow the podcast. I'll be back to share more stories, more life experiences, and more communication tips every Friday. If you want to reach me or connect with me, just put your comments in the comment box below or mail me at info@sarikasingh.in. I know you're going to rate and review this podcast, so a big thank you in advance. Stay tuned and think about what we talked today.